Mr. Bass, do you
Yeah,
hear that sound? It's like a sword coming out of its sheath. That is my NVS fin.
you might put the microphone next to that to get the sound. No, that's not
You
working.
can't pick it up. I just lifted it, and that's exactly what it sounded like to me. Anyways, NVS. I was telling you last time I was going for different combos with my John Simon quad. Couldn't quite get it dialed. This is what I'm running now. I got the two quad fins on the toe side, but the one album twin, big fin on the heel side. So there's three fins in the board, one big twin on the heel side and two smaller quads, and this has unlocked the magic in the board.
Yeah, that's great. I know it's exciting. You and I have spoken about this in the past that especially the ASIMs, different ASIMs
Yeah.
require a lot of give and take, some playing around with different fin configurations. And certainly at some point you'll find the magic combo. And like I said, I mean, I had five different fins.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you're going through right now.
Yeah. But it's fun. It makes it fun. So,
Yeah.
but Surf NVS is their website. I think it's Naked Viking on Instagram, but they make these Apex series fins out of G10 laminate, which are guaranteed for a lifetime. And you can see these, I've had these for a very long time. There's no nicks, there's no anything. They look brand new straight out of the package, as even though they're probably 3 years old now. So, really high quality stuff, really finely foiled because of this super strong material. So, check them all out. surfnvs.com.
Yeah, and you know what? You'll be able to meet those guys in person and talk with them at the boardroom show. And
Oh,
so
perfect.
Leif and Jamin, they each and every year they get a booth, and they're super engaging and fun to talk with. So they'll dial you right in on any sort of insights that you require regarding fins and NVS stuff. And so come out and say hi to those guys. I mean, that's what's so cool about the boardroom shows, that it's a chance for everyone to meet the people that are the surfboard building industry.
Exactly. Yeah, awesome. And then also, if you want to get them from retail, Real Water Sports has been our retail partner for a very long time, and NVS has been one of their fin suppliers for a very long time. And Real Water Sports is actually doing a used gear sale right now where you can get up to 70% off. And they have just gems, old surfboards, foil gear, stuff like that. It's all vetted and they do a really good job on their website of detailing exactly if there is a blemish or if there is any damage or a dent or whatever. They document that, explain it, put photos of it. So you know exactly what you're getting despite it being used.
Well, I tell you, I'm sort of missing being in Waves, North Carolina. Like I'm having real water sports withdrawals. I sort of want to go. Well, I do want to
Well,
go back and visit and spend some time with Trip and the crew there, and just get involved and dive into warm weather North Carolina in the summer.
and the South too, just like Southern hospitality, like that's part of what I enjoy about that part of the world is you feel like you're home. If people just you just incorporate into the community and people embrace you. Um, when we left last time, we all said we're going to make it a yearly trip, and we did it zero planning in between then and now. So we really need to get back on that because I agree. I love it.
Yeah, I know. I need to talk to Katrina and do something. But yeah.
Well, we met Corbin. I think Rich Corbin is his name, but Corbin Surfboards when we were at Real Water Sports. And then he actually came out to the boardroom show because he's a local board builder there. And I just bought an oyster shucker from him online. He was doing like a farmer's market showcasing his surfboards. And he uses some of the offcuts to do little knick-knacky type stuff. And one of them was like a, resin chunk um, that he then built into a oyster shucker. And I saw it on Instagram and I'm like, dude, can you send me some of those? So I should be getting it soon, today or tomorrow.
That's cool. I thought it was maybe one of Rich Corbin's models, the oyster shucker.
That'd be epic. That's such a good model name. No,
Yeah.
it's a literal oyster shucker. But
Wow.
but yeah, we met him first at Real Water Sports. So it's a small world, the podcast world.
Remember that crazy storm? Were we doing the podcast when that storm hit? Or no, that was at dinner.
It was during a meet and greet.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Meet and greet.
So, anyways, go to Real Water Sports. They host camps if you want to learn how to foil like we did, but incredible retail. And like I said, right in the middle of a 70% off used gear sale. So go check that out. Realwatersports.com.
As we see some movement at the takeoff zone, it's Kelly Slater grabbing rail.
Yeah, guy. Yeah, guy. This is Spit, the Spit podcast. David Lee Scales, Scott Bass here with you, talking all things surf, things that are in the surf world. Maybe there are personal incidents that occurred, fun surf sessions that David and Scott had, or perhaps international news. Whatever it is, we're going to bring it to you here. And it is Tuesday, June 25th.
Fifth.
And good morning, David Scales. How
Good
are you?
morning. Good morning, Scott Bass. I am well. Did you have a surf incident this week that you were alluding to?
I kind of did.
Ah, I cannot wait. It's either every show is either an incident or a new surfboard purchase. And it's
No.
like 80% surfboard purchases, 20% incidents.
No, I had sort of an embarrassing moment. I was out foiling, and there's a dear friend of mine. He's a good friend of mine. I've been surfing with him for whatever, 20 years. And we're buddies and we play guitar together and stuff. And I was on my foil. I was on the shoulder, of course, and he caught a wave. I didn't even know it was him. I thought I was on the way by myself because I was like head down and just trying to catch this thing. And I stood up and it was him. And he's like, "Hey," and he like screamed at me. But I know that he knows that I know that he's just jiving with me. We're just kind of, and I fully failed and fell. And he goes in and I'm paddling back out and just some rando guys like screaming at me like, was that really necessary? He has no
Oh
idea that
my
I know
gosh.
Simon really well and that like we surf waves together all the time. And I was just like, well, who is this guy yelling at me? Like,
Yeah, of course.
I'm just like, and so I was just like, dude, we had a few words, but we made it okay.
You had
Everything's fine.
words with the rando?
Oh yeah. This guy's screaming. I paddled straight up. I paddled, like straight at him. Like, who are you? Like, what are you? I don't recognize your authority.
And how did
And
he respond?
he backed down because
Oh, he did.
because I was like, what are you talking about? Do you know this person? Do you know me? Do you not like you're supposed to know me, but like, why are you yelling at me? Like,
It's awfully brave, is not the right word, but it's awfully brave of him to interject himself into that interaction without knowing anything, because there's an order of people who should get involved. Number one is the person who you burned, they should confront you first. Like for him to just throw himself into the mix is really out of line.
yeah, that's kind of what I thought too. Especially because he didn't understand, he had no understanding of what was happening. I think the way he read it was like Simon was yelling at me and my friend was yelling at me. And so he had to back up
Even though he
this
doesn't know
guy.
Simon either.
He didn't know him.
Well, it also seems like maybe he recognized you just as a foiler, and
Oh, for sure.
he needs to lay down the law against all foilers, and so he's looking for an opportunity to say something, hoping that you beat it.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And he got the opposite.
And he actually, was he contrite? You said he backed down, but did he
Yeah, like
apologize? Did he?
eventually, yeah, I I forget exactly how it went down, but at some point I think I asked him, like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm just backing up that guy. And I'm like, backing him up? Do you even know him? Because he's
Right.
like a super dear friend of mine. We've known each other for 30 years. And we surf together each and every day. Like, what? He's like, oh, and
Yeah.
and then I asked him his name and I told him my name and I said, look, we can be friends. Like, this doesn't have to be this way.
So he got back in the car and Googled and saw that you have a podcast, and now he's listening to this
No, I hope
retelling
not.
of it on your podcast.
I actually feel like I probably owe him an apology because might have been a little too harsh. But
So that's what's interesting to me is, as I'm going to switch into interviewer role now,
mhm.
but how do you, not you, but just in general, like how does one, um, because you do a lot of prep work to like not feel that level of rage or ire when you're in that situation. You talk about it on the show all the time. So how does one find themselves in that situation and not express the ire and anger that is bubbling up in that moment when it gets triggered? You know what I mean? Like, how is it that you could do all the prep work that we've talked about and then still fall into it?
Yeah. Well, that's the human condition, right? I mean, the answer is ego. Like I let my ego get the better of me. Like there's such a smoother way to handle
Right.
that situation than for me to paddle Mach 5 straight up to him and start screaming at.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
that's where I made a mistake.
you explained it to me very calmly. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you could have explained it to him that calmly as well. So what is it that activates and how do you subvert it?
Well, first of all, your heart rate's already up because you're actually surfing. Like like you're catching waves and paddling and there's sets coming. And then me paddling straight at him full speed, I've got, my heart rate's going. So I'm just
Yeah.
immediately like, what?
Yeah.
So the answer is, here's the answer. And this is why I owe him an apology is that people don't remember what you say to them, but they remember how you make them feel. And you want people to feel good about themselves and good about you, even in a situation where there's some conflict, and that's not always going to be the case. Obviously, it's, there's situations that there's just too much ego and too much pride and too much, I'm right and you're wrong, and I'm going to be stubborn about it. When we have these daily conflicts, whether it's, returning a shopping cart to its proper place or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's difficult, and that's the human condition. But I think, the important thing is to kind of acknowledge it internally and try to do better next time. That's really all I can do.
I've got a suggestion that I just thought about to answer my own question. Um, Whenever I think about moments that I did blow up like that, there was always, I was predisposed to blowing up by some events that happened earlier in the day. And so it was like, I had a bad morning or I was upset about something or whatever. There was, any number of things that pissed me off in the morning. And then I go throughout my day and I respond out of anger and aggression when I normally would be able to manage those emotions better. And so there's got to be kind of disciplined or rituals that you do in the morning time to kind of get in the right headspace, put the right foods in your body, stuff like that, so that you aren't, you know, like I said, primed.
Yeah. I think that's actually really, really probably the most important advice of this little conversation is to prepare yourself for the day ahead of you.
The problem is sometimes I don't know why I'm upset in the morning. Like, I don't know, you wake up on the wrong side of the bed. I did everything right. Yesterday was a great day. And I wake up and I just have this, things are just annoying you? And it's like, that's when you don't want to implement the ritual or the discipline.
Exactly. That's when you need it the most.
Yeah.
Some quiet time.
Man, being an being a responsible adult contributing member of society, raising a family and having all the, responsibilities that come with it, stressful, man.
Yeah, life is a little stressy. Life
It
gets stressy.
weighs on you. Well, glad to hear. Well, I mean, not to hear that you went through that incident, but glad to hear your reflections upon it. How many days ago was that?
That was yesterday.
Yeah, okay. It's still not. It's still raw.
I'm
Give me a
gonna
couple
I'm
days.
gonna hunt the guy. I'm trying to hunt the guy down. I tried to find him yesterday, but I want to hunt him down and
Hunt him
apologize
down.
for
That
my.
is.
I need to apologize for
Oh,
my
okay.
behavior.
Hunt
I'll
him
be
down
hunting
sounds
him.
like. Um, well, it's funny, dude, whenever you go through something like that, how many times you play it over in your head. Like
Yes.
it's this slow spin of inertia of like intensity that slowly wears off eventually. If you play it through your head enough times, it'll wear itself out to where you're not angered by it anymore. But that burden is enough
Oh,
of a consequence to not want to do it again. Just having to do that over in your head when you're going to sleep at night for a few nights.
yeah. I wasn't that. I mean, you know, it was probably a 50-50 transgression on
Yeah, but
each
it's
of
still,
us,
yeah,
each
but
of
it's
our,
it's
yeah,
still not how you want to spend your time thinking
no,
afterwards, you know, like it
absolutely.
wears.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, moving on into surf news, we have
Hey, who
yeah.
said that? Who said that?
Yeah.
I've got another episode of Who Said That,
Oh,
David.
don't
This
think I don't
is
have
that,
one for you too.
oh man, this is that show, that part of the show, David, where we will quote a famous surfer or surf personality, if you will. And you, David, get to choose or guess which surfer I'm talking about. And so I'm going to give you that quote now, and then I'm going to give you 4 options to choose from. So here's the quote. I was a loner as a kid for a lot of complex reasons. I think that's why I got into art and surfing, both. But I had a hard time with my dad, and that led to trouble in school when I was young. My dad used to beat me. And so I'd go to school beaten, and the kids picked up on that and they'd beat me too.
Brutal.
David, was this A, John Van Hammersveld, B, Rick Griffin, C, John Severson, or D, Drew Brophy?
Wow. I'm going either Griffin or Brophy. I don't know enough about either of their fathers. So, but man, that is a brutal story. Let's go Brophy.
David, you are wrong.
Mm.
Yeah, it wasn't Drew Brophy. It was
Well,
John Severson. John Severson,
wow.
the founder of Surfer Magazine. That is a quote from him in an interview that he did with Matt Warshaw in 1996 for the Surfer's Journal.
Wow.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear it. Well, I'm glad it's not Brophy. No offense
Yeah.
to Severson, but where did that how did that find its way to you?
I was just scouring one of my favorite websites, the Encyclopedia of Surfing, eos.surf, and came across this great interview with John Severson. Super important, perhaps one of the most important figures in all of surfing. Probably a guy that I don't know. It's interesting. Like 20-year-olds don't even know who John Severson is, or
Right.
Surfer Magazine for that matter.
Yeah.
It's amazing how that whole thing just disappeared.
Yeah, I mean to an extent, right? It
Yeah.
was on hiatus, it's making a comeback.
Yeah.
And it'll dovetail into a couple of different conversations I was going to bring up today, but I've got a who said it for you. Now, it's a little bit different today. Tom Curran said this, but what you have to identify is who is he talking about?
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Okay, he said, Tom Curran said, quote, I consider him a really good friend now, and he's by far one of the funniest people I know. That's a clue. But I didn't enjoy the fact that he was going faster and more ballistic than anyone back in the day, including me. So that part really bothered me. But it really pushed me too. I was obsessed with blank at a certain point. I was looking at his fin templates, trying to get Al to make boards that were really flat like his. I was caught up in the whole thing. He beat me several times in a row before I ever got him. And that was a huge bummer at the time. There was a period there where I was trying, where when as hard as I was trying, I couldn't get over a certain plateau in my surfing, and my surfing sort of deteriorated. I was over gyrating or throwing pizzas or whatever you want to call it, and blank was just on a whole different level at that point. End quote. Was he speaking about A, Tom Carroll, B, Mark Occhilupo, C, Gary Elkerton, or D, Martin Potter?
Well, it could easily be any of those 4. When you were reading the quote, I was gonna I was gonna say I don't even need to know who they are. I think I know who the answer is. And that was
Stick
Occy.
stick with that.
Occy.
Occy, Mark Occhilupo, who this year marks his 25th year anniversary since he won his title, his world title in 1999. So they are currently touring the Occumentary. I think Jack McCoy and Occy and a couple of others are on tour in Australia showcasing the film. And then Surfing World also just released an issue with the 50-page tribute to Occy, a life story.
It's interesting, huh? That those years when Kelly Slater wasn't on tour, bunch of not a bunch, but a couple of statesmen within the sport won their world titles.
Yeah.
Occy was one of them. Who was the other?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so to your point, to illustrate for fans who aren't fully aware of the surf history there, that was way after Occy's quote prime. You know, Occy
Exactly.
came up like Tom Curran right now is talking about Occy dominating. That was in 84.
Exactly.
And so Occy never got his world title. He had all the potential in the world. He was a golden boy. He was that much faster, more radical than anybody else at that time and didn't get the world title. Then he disappeared and he
Yeah.
put on a bunch of weight and didn't even surf for a period of time and then came back, like you said. And during that time, Kelly dominated everything. And Kelly decided to take a break from professional surfing. That was when Occy came back, sharpened the knives, and brought that same old school style of surfing, which is still relevant today, and actually won a title in 99.
And there was another guy that won a world title, an elder statesman, the following year. Do you know who that was?
Sonny Garcia.
Yeah. Sonny Garcia, I believe, won in 2000.
Yeah, I
And
believe so.
I think there was 3 years where Kelly wasn't on tour. I'm not sure who won in 2001. It might have been Andy.
CJ Hobgood.
Oh, that's right. That was the year that the 9/11 year. CJ was leading the ratings, and then we had 9/11, and they just decided to pull the plug on the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think they ran 5 events that year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, pretty interesting turn of events there. But Occy, what's interesting too is like he's still at the top of his game. If you watch Occy, he was in the J Bay event that we discussed last week. He didn't really get the waves he needed in that event, but if you watch his surfing modern day, you'll still see clips of him out at Kira just burning everybody basically. But he's dominating. He's absolutely dominating the lineup there in a very, very, competitive lineup. So
Yeah.
it's incredible to see at that age still committed to it.
Yeah, I think as we get older, the thing that's crucial for all of us is good waves. Like if you give these guys good waves, they're going to look good. They've got the style and the technique. They've had it for 40 years. And so if you get them into, fast waves of 4 feet or larger, they're going to surf pretty damn good.
Totally. Well, Surfing World Magazine, Sean Doherty just sent me a couple of boxes of it. I have 40 plus copies available if anybody wants them. We make them available on surfsplendorpodcast.com. It's almost a nonprofit endeavor. We just kind of do it at cost. But if you wanted to buy one from Australia, it would in the US, it would cost you a lot to have it shipped. This way, he just kind of ships them to me in bulk, and then you can get them for $20 an issue, and then I'll ship it to you. So if you're outside of the US, just order through Surfing World. But if you are in the US and you want Surfing World, surfsplendorpodcast.com is where you get it. I'll send it to you.
Well, yeah, and I'll pay for it, of course. I want an issue. I want to support that. And that looks like a fun one to read.
It's a great issue. And remember that huge turn that Molly Picklum did at Sunset? They have a print version of that. And that just coming across that image reminded me of why print is so valuable. That turn looked insane on camera, and we rewatched it over and over. But when you see a 2-page spread of it in print, it takes on a whole new meaning. It's just like, what in the world?
Yeah.
So gnarly.
It's funny. We were talking about sort of print and it's making a comeback. What needs to happen, because this is what happened when you and I were younger, is that we would pull up to our local parking lot, to our spot, and check the surf. And somebody, either you or I or our friends, had the latest issue of the magazine, and we would all gather around his car and look at the surf and then look at the mat. And so what needs to happen is somebody needs to bring that issue to the seaside parking lot and show all those 12-year-olds what a surf magazine looks like and get
Totally.
them fired up.
Well, interestingly, about 2 weeks ago, the New York Times wrote an article about, I think it was said, or the title was something to the effect of high-end print is thriving amongst whatever they call the current generation, not millennials, but whatever the new ones are. And they used the Surfer's Journal as an example in the article.
Oh,
And
that's cool.
they gave a full, I think they did an interview even with Debbie,
Mm-hmm.
and explained the economics of their business model and their commitment. And it was like all about the actual thickness of the page and the glossy feel and the, quality writing, that you just don't get in another platform or medium. And turns out it's thriving. When they give the economics of the Surfer's Journal business model, you can pencil it all out yourself and you're like, oh my gosh, that's a pretty tidy business. Like, I think they said there was 12 employees. Here's the revenue numbers. Here's the hard costs. There's a tidy profit at the end of that if you just cater to a core group.
Yeah, I'm stoked to hear that that's in the New York Times. I just purchased this.
Good
This is
on you.
the Steve Pesman book. Remember
Turn and go.
last week I was literally
Yeah.
on the show buying books. And I
Yep.
also bought Flow Violento, musings from Scott Hewlett from the
Mu-
Surfer's Journal. So I bought those two books and I'm excited
musings,
about it.
musings from Mace.
Musings from Mace.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, good on you for supporting print. And yeah, if anybody else wants Surfing World, come and get it. So in surf news, Stab High, the Brazil event is underway. They haven't started yet, but they're in the waiting period currently. And a couple of other things, but should we start with Stab High?
Yeah, let's start there. Stab High Japan. Oh my, David. Wow. First of all, as you may recall, last week I was like, nah, I'm not even into it. I'm not going to watch it. I figured I'd have something better to do. But somehow, I think because it started in the evening here in California at like 5 o'clock, I turned it on and boy, am I glad I did because right from the get go, it was instantly entertaining. It was really good. So I apologize to Stab and the Stab High production crew or the crew that put it together because I was poo-pooing it, not because it was lame, but just because I don't know why. But
Yeah, I know exactly why. You don't owe an apology to Stab or the production crew. You know an apology to wave pools at large. You were just poo-pooing the idea of a wave pool, is all that it was.
yeah, the idea of watching guys surf in a wave pool, I think
Yeah.
was like, but it was fast paced. It was about as fast paced as a competition can be. And probably the big thing is Rasta Rob, the very first wave delivered, which in my eyes, that's like a grand slam on the first pitch of the game. So Rasta Rob, very first wave of the event, just makes this incredible air. I don't even know what it was called. I'm just like old guy, get off of my lawn, but it was an
Yeah.
incredible air and it created instant drama from a production standpoint, from a storytelling standpoint. We had now a really high bar for all the other competitors to get to. And I was hooked right from the get go. And the comp, like I say, it was a fast paced competition. And there was this incredible performance level surfing that was mind blowing.
Well, funnily, last week when we spoke, you were poo-pooing it, and I was the one trying to hype you. And I said, no matter what I'm doing on Friday, I'm going to have it on my phone just to have as background noise. Well, I forgot we had a social obligation that night, so I did not get to watch any of it live. You were watching it live, even though you said you wouldn't. And you're texting me like, "Hey, did you see that?" I'm like, "Shoot, I'm missing it." Like I was angry at our social, the people that we were with, because I wanted to be watching Stab High instead. But what I did do is in the morning, obviously saw a bunch of the highlights, and then Saturday night watched it live in real time. But what's funny is the energy really had shifted. I could tell exactly what you said, that everybody was so hyped on day one. Day two, on the other hand, apparently there was wind. There was, you know, wind that was problematic, like blowing the board away from their feet, sort of a thing. And so the make ratio was super low. They started out the day with the Ladybirds, and their make ratio is really, really low. And so I felt like, um, we had the exact opposite experiences than we were anticipating. You loved your experience with it, and I was just like kind of bummed on the experience with it. But it all came around in the end. I'm giving the slow roll into the reveal, but in the end, it turned out to be a very highly enjoyable event. Again, because it was secondary viewing, there was moments where I could tune in and really focus on it, but throughout the course of the evening, I could cook dinner, have dinner with the fam, watch a movie with my wife, and it was always on in the background, and then I could just engage with it when I needed to or wanted to.
Yeah, there was a lot to take in. There was a lot of highlights, and I'm not sure what you think
Well,
was your sort of like highlight of the event. So maybe you can
I have
give
a
me
few.
that. Yeah,
Yeah. First of all, we should state the winners.
yeah.
Kiari Gold wins the Ladybirds, which I'd never heard her name before. I don't know how old she is exactly. I'd say in the 12-year range, but really young, landed a couple of incredible airs, way gnarlier than anything I've ever done in my life. Really, really cool to see. Lucas Cassidy won the Bottle Rockets division. Lucas, also a guy who I had not heard of, but a couple days before this event, a buddy of mine, Joe Foster, who's a photographer in Southern California, posted an image of Lucas Cassidy doing a big backside rotation, the exact air that he won the event with at lowers. And he was riding a Channel Island surfboard. So I DM'd it to Devin Howard and I was just like, hey, you probably haven't seen this photo because you don't follow Joe Foster, but how insane is this? And Devin was like, yeah, that kid's gnarly. He was raised in Baja. He surfs so good for his age. Well, then he went on to win this event 2 days later. Ethan Osborne won the men's division with a trick that he had only landed once before in his life, which was a backside. They're calling it an air reverse. I'm calling it a full rotation, but it was with a stalefish grab. Um, it was just huge, and it was on the very final wave that he was surfing in the event. He needed a score. He was not in first place, so he needed a huge score, and he ended up locking down the score with that big move. And again, a move that he had only landed once before in his life. So really kind of an exciting finish to the event. Um, we could talk about highlights. We'll get into individual waves. I feel like Stab had a very successful event. Like this felt like everybody who was there had a blast. The viewing public, I think, just from looking at comments, largely enjoyed the event. There was some chatter about the commentary not being fully, professional or whatever, or like a little loose and missing waves and whatever. I thought it was super, super fun. And I thought that the irreverent style of broadcast was actually very refreshing. I found it to be, even though there was a couple little hiccups here and there, I actually preferred the irreverence, over the super polished attempt that the WSL tries to be. The sanitized version just doesn't feel very much like surfing, and it doesn't feel like what it's like to be on the beach experiencing the event. Whereas what Stab did by making it irreverent just represented the party that they were having and the fun times that everybody was having. So as the viewer, I just found it to be entertaining to watch.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And so just to back step a little bit here, the Ethan Osborne wave at the end, which won the event, it sort of was, the event was therefore sort of perfectly bookended, because you had Roster
Totally.
Rob on the very first wave and Ethan Osborne basically on the very last wave. And so you had these, like boom, it ended on like just an incredible highlight. And so that was kind of neat. And then in between those two things, all sorts of fun stuff happened. And there was, I'm going to forget some of these guys' names, but the kid's name, I think his last name is Wilson. He did a full on, like, I don't know,
Swanson, Luke Swanson.
Luke Swanson. Thank you. Yeah. He did some incredible, I guess it was like a 360, or you would know the name of it, but it was basically,
I feel like it was a Flintstone flip, like what Flynn Novak would do at Rocky
yeah.
Point.
Yeah. Okay. It was upside down. I know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, incredible.
And there was quite a few other incredible rides. I don't know if we could go through them all, but what I would suggest is my must-see moment presented by Trees Wax is you go watch the Stab High Japan replay, and in about 4 minutes, you're going to see every single air, and it's incredible. So that's my must-see moment presented by Trees Wax. Watch that replay of this event.
Well,
The one, Yeah, go ahead.
The other thing about that replay is they capture the party atmosphere in the replay too. It's not just the highlights of the waves. And that's kind of where I wanted to give kudos to Stab in the production is um I hate to throw the WSL under the bus all the time, but the Stab High recap hacks, story, personality, all the behind the scenes stuff. Like surfers, what's drew all of us into surfing is these personalities, you know, and their personality then, of course, is showcased through their surfing. Where the WSL is an opposite example where there's a real homogeneity and everything is sanitized. And so the surfing all starts to look the same. And the individual personalities, they're actually not allowed to express their individualism because they might, you know, piss off a sponsor or whatever. This felt like the opposite of that. This was, they do showcase the waves, but they also showcase Zeke being a complete douche nozzle, you know, and then they,
Wait a
and
minute.
then,
I thought Zeke was one of the best things about this event.
I'm not against that. He was very entertaining, but that's his personality. That is his brand. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And then uh
I've got a take on Zeke. I think he's like Mason Ho's younger stepbrother who lives in California.
totally. So and then Mason Ho, his brand of exuberant smiling and just having a blast was perfectly, you know, personified through that little recap clip. Point is, the recap clip, you're right, is a must-see moment, and it really distilled and concentrated the event, I think, very effectively.
So there was a situation that occurred that you're probably aware of where Zeke and Sean Manners had a basically like um there was some
Beef.
yeah, there was a beef, I guess.
Going
And
into the event, they started talking crap online. Basically, Zeke's personality, his outsized persona that we're talking about, Sean took issue with that and basically just left a comment being like, you know, F this guy, better put his money where his mouth is, sort of a thing. And Zeke stepped up to it and he's like, yeah, I will. Let's go. And showed up. And so,
and then I think on Saturday or the day before the event, there was some Instagram live stuff where um Zeke's like, hey, I'll tell you what, whoever gets the highest score rides the other guy's board for an entire year. Like the loser of whoever gets the lowest score has to ride the other guy's board for an entire year. Like, and so this kind of thing, David, is the total Dana White. This is how Conor McGregor got a title shot because he was just a
exactly.
loud, brash. And by the way, who wouldn't right now if we put Zeke and Sean Manners out at 8 foot wherever, we
Yeah.
all wouldn't pay to watch it go down.
Yep.
Or probably a better example would be let's like take them to Waco or let's take them to an airwave that's in the ocean and give these guys an hour and
Yep.
let's do betting on it. Let's get the hype going. Let's interview both of them and get them. And Zeke is going to step up and he's going to be the best thing that ever happened for your brand. Cause he is like, and one of the commentators mentioned it and it's spot on, but he brings a WWE professional wrestling vibe. Whether you love it or hate it, it's
Mm-hmm.
entertaining and it provides instant drama. And he does a lot of good things. Like, you're sort of anti, I'm assuming, but either way, it doesn't matter. You're either pro or against, but you have an opinion one way
Yep.
about this person. And that's what is lacking from the WSL. And we used to have that in pro surfing. There was it was sort of under the radar if you knew if you knew the industry, but there was guys that didn't like other guys. And that's been whitewashed. And that's the problem, part of the problem with the WSL. I mean, Zeke and other guys at this event are really showcasing their personalities and it's fun and you want to watch it.
Yeah. Yep. Totally agree. And Zeke, I tried to ignore for the last couple of years because he was obnoxious to me. It's just not my taste, let's say. I could not ignore him in this event. So much so that when Duma's interviewing him after the wave he surfed, I have to turn up the volume and listen. That's the moment I engage. You know, I'm able to watch passively until he's on the mic. And then I'm like, okay, what's he going to say now? Oh my God, he flipped off the judges. They said they don't like double grabs. He did a double grab despite them and then flipped them off and said, score it or don't. This is what I do, you know? And so Duma leaning into the conversation, then running the microphone over to Sean Manners, or running the microphone over to Nathan Fletcher. Literally in that interaction I just explained, Duma interviewed Nathan Fletcher, the head judge, afterwards and goes, "Hey, what do you got to say to Zeke?" He just, and Fletcher says exactly what Fletcher would say. He's like, "Well, that was pretty stupid of him. Double grabs do suck. And he's idiotic for giving up his final wave or his first wave in the final to Sean Manners, which was another part of their bet, So like leaning into these things, hearing all sides of the story in real time, these people are comfortable expressing their opinions. You know what I mean? You don't need to sanitize them. And we as the audience don't need them sanitized for us. It is what it is. So
And in
I was a
fact,
huge
we
fan.
resent it when you do
Yes.
sanitize it.
Duh. You
Yeah.
know? So to continue on with Zeke, now I'm engaged, but he always has been a good surfer. Like that's undeniable. And again, it might not be your style of surfing for your taste, but he's a very good surfer. And so he deserved a spot at this event. I feel like he was scored appropriately. Like,
Did you see his first air? His first air was insane.
yeah, totally.
And he stuck it, and that sort of set the stage for we can't ignore this.
Exactly. Yeah. So he earned his spot into the event. I feel like the winner, Aton, was the deserved winner. Matt Meola was the deserved second place. Like it all kind of played out exactly how it should have.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a very exciting thing. I thought the commentary, I already alluded to it, but they did a very good job. They also did a very good job, or the production team did a very good job in identifying and labeling each trick. So there was a lot of that education, I thought. Like even when they posted on Instagram, which they did a good job of posting those things quickly, in bold text, it would say Indy, stalefish, backside rotation
Okay. Well,
with
that's
the
interesting.
score.
So that was on Instagram because I obviously have some thoughts about how it could be better. And by the way, they did a great job. And through the course of 2 days of live events, there's going to be hiccups, and I get it. But if we're going to nitpick, let's nitpick. And I would say that and maybe I'm not the demographic, but for guys like me, I need more identification of what's happening, the technical side of what this trick is on the live stream, rather than having to go to Instagram to figure it out. Yeah. The other thing that would be really cool is side by side replays of the airs. And then I was sort of a miss as to what was happening with the scoring, like the updated leaderboard specifically. Right. I was like, who's in first? I don't even know who's went. Like, what? This guy's surfing. Where is he? Is he in last place? Is he in third place? Is he in first place? I don't know.
You're right. And the commentators didn't know either, because the commentators would even mention, they'd be like, how many more waves do we have? Is this his final run? Like they don't know. So you're right.
And that was sort of the beauty of the commentaries, that they were calling out the production, the lack of production in real time. And in fact, even the production guys would get on the TV on the live stream and go, "Hey, screw you. We're trying our best. We're having some issues. Deal with it." Like it was kind of fun.
Well, Dane Reynolds literally was like talking for 5 minutes. And then at the end of the 5 minutes goes, "We're not live, are we?" And Stace Galbraith is like, "Yeah, we're always, you presume that we're always live. Yes, everything that you just said is live."
Yeah. So there were some production things. There was a couple of missed waves where literally like they would show the end of the ride, and you'd be like, how hard can it be to just put a camera on the thing and push the camera one button and make sure that we're watching the live shot?
Yeah.
That happened a couple of times where you didn't even see the actual live action that you're tuned in for. But again, there's going to be hiccups. And overall, it was, like I said, it was engaging, and for all of the reasons that we've mentioned.
So one surfer stood out to me. 3 surfers stood out to me, but the one surfer who I think is the best aerialist in the world is Matt Meola. And he just has an additional level of pop and loft that the other surfers don't get, that allow him to do more spins, faster spins, whatever. He's so proficient with the grabs and all of that. Like he can fit a lot in when he gets in the air. But if you just watch, there's almost like, I'm watching how some people stall and then pump at the last few seconds to the air section. if you watch what he does just in the final fraction of a second when he's like doing a final kind of projection into the lip, there's an extra level of speed that he's somehow generating that allows him to really, really take off. He's also lighter than anybody else, which is something that I mentioned last week might be a benefit for the juniors. Um, Turned out not to be. That was a false prediction or an inaccurate prediction. But Matt Meola is lighter than all the other pros and has all the ability and talent and skill. And so I feel like he was the most exciting surfer for me to watch, and he could win any of these events in a pool or in the ocean. He was winning this up until Aton's final wave with a rodeo flip on a right. We've seen the rodeo flip done for 15 years now. So it's not exactly an innovative. People were going so huge and just barely not landing. And so they weren't getting the score. And that was something that he stuck on the final day, which scores from the first day weren't committed to the final day for a finals appearance. So he stuck the rodeo, and that happened to have him in first position. But he and everybody else kind of acknowledged the rodeo should not win this event. And so the contest organizers offered the opportunity to surf one additional wave, or maybe I think it was two additional waves
Well,
each.
they actually asked him, he was leading, and they asked him, should
Exactly.
we surf one or two additional waves? And he said, let's do two additional waves. And
Which is
that's why he
amazing.
lost.
Exactly. So Matt Meola could have just said, no, rules are rules. I'm winning. Let's just call it a day and I can cash my 15K or whatever it was. But Matt Meola said the exact, he didn't even flinch. He was like, dude, this is all about progress. The more waves, the better. Like, we're here. Let's figure out who can do the gnarliest wave. Nobody stomped anything super gnarly yet. And sure enough, that's when Ethan Osborne did stomp his. And Matt Meola had a wave after Ethan where he went for something crazy on the left and the board flew away from him. But, that presumably could have gotten a score if he would have landed it. But kudos to Matt Meola, of course. And then I think the contest organizers also deserve credit for just going with the flow. Like, you can't anticipate all the variables before the event, so you design a contest format. But in the midst of the day, when you realize the energy is going a certain way, and that was another thing they changed, was there was supposed to be two waves count, a right and a left. They decided before the final, no, let's just do one wave counts. The best trick counts and wins the event. Who
Yeah.
cares if somebody does two 6-point rides and lands them both? That's not what we want to reward. We want to reward somebody who gets one 10-point ride. And so they made that adjustment before the final, which I thought was also savvy and cool.
Yeah, I agree. And you mentioned Matt Meola, and one of the things when I watch him surf is I sense that the pool sort of holds him back. And I think that's the case for a number of guys like Chippa Wilson,
Yeah.
and probably a lot of the guys. I think that they probably do more crazy radical shit in the ocean just because there's more energy. It's just a bigger launching ramp. It's really neither here nor there, but because the pool's a great framework for what they're trying to do here. And it's hard to kind of master to replicate that in the ocean because of all the variables and stuff. But I just sense that Matt and a number of other guys aren't being given the best opportunity to do their craziest surfing because of the limitations of the pool, understanding that the pool is a great framework for all the other things that they're trying to accomplish.
Totally agree. Raiji Masuda did some of my favorite airs in the event. As a kid from Malibu, regular footer, so stylish and cool looking. Like, I don't know the names of most of these airs either, but he would do basically a straight air, really boned out with a really sick grab, and his style was just really like it. When I look at it, I have no interest in doing what Matt Meola is doing. I would never attempt it, But when I watched what he was doing, I was like, oh my God, I would love to be able to do that. So Raiji Masuda was a standout for me. Mason Hose, I don't know if it was a judo air or what he did on day one on the right that ended up getting the massive massive air award, which I think was $10,000. That was huge and so cool and stylish.
That was pretty incredible. And I'm glad you brought him up. Mason was a name that we spoke about earlier, but that first wave was incredible. That air was and it was so smooth and so transition. A lot of it for me is how they transition out of it, and it was buttery.
Yeah, that's with that kid Raiji Masuda. His transition on the landing was always, it was like as if he didn't even leave the lip of the wave. It was as if that 3 foot wave was 6 foot and he just went up into the 6 foot lip and then came down. That's like how smooth his transitions are. Rasta Rob, you mentioned going huge on the right. Rasta was the current champ of Stab High, and he landed a huge air on the left on day one, and the judges deemed it a non-make, even though he landed. It was kind of out in front of the whitewash into the flats, fully landed and stomped, but didn't have the momentum going. And so the whitewash just kind of overtook him and he didn't, quote, ride out of the wave. But that would have gotten him into finals day, no doubt about it. So Rasta Rob, despite not being on finals day, is still a contender in these events.
Yeah. Rasta Rob got robbed,
He
basically.
did.
And it's sort of a bummer because, there was a feeling that the nature of that wave pool doesn't have enough energy there. Just the energy dissipates so quickly that
Yeah.
it doesn't push you forward. So if you land too far out in the flat, that whitewater's just, it dies out and it won't push you forward. So a make that would normally be a make, perhaps in another wave pool or in the ocean, isn't. And so many deemed it a make, and I think Nathan or one of the other guys was like, "Nah, it wasn't a make." And you know, Albie
Hard,
Lair had mentioned the same thing. Of course, he's a big guy, and the energy just isn't there.
yeah.
So
Hard to
whatever.
argue with the judging panel, because those guys are so legit. Like their opinions matter, but Frost Rob deserves recognition as being still as one of the top contenders, even though he didn't make the finals. Um,
I think he deserves an award for making the very first wave of the event, and it
yeah,
was not just it was an incredible air. It was like mind blowing, and on some level, I feel like Dab, I'm sure that there's part of the production staff that's like, that guy did us a huge favor. We should do something for him. You know what I mean?
well, they've really been responsible for elevating his profile from no-name surfer to world famous aerialist.
Yeah.
So they're all about it. But one thing that's worth mentioning is that Channel Islands surfboards swept this event. The
Yes.
surfers that I mentioned who won the event, the three surfers, the Ladybird, the Bottle Rocket, and the Pro, all were riding Channel Islands surfboards.
Well, kudos to Channel Islands. I'm stoked to hear that. Big fans of everything they do over there. Mason, of course, was on a Lost and
Yeah,
he won something.
the
So
Massive
let's
Air
give
Award.
credit to Matt Biolos because, and there was a couple of other, I'd be interested. It'd be interesting to see what kind of boards were in that event. Who was making, I saw quite a few Mayhems, quite a few
Yeah,
Channel Islands.
mostly Mayhem and Channel Islands. The Raiji Masuda, I believe he rides Timmy Patterson's.
And of
So
course, Zeke is on Rusty's.
that's right. I saw a couple Rusties.
Letty Mortensen, Letty,
Is on Rusty.
he's on a Rusty. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, one of the most compelling storylines for me is Patty Zhao, the Beijing-born Olympic snowboard medalist. I think she's 13 years old. From what I understand, she learned how to surf in a wave pool. So she is a prodigy snowboarder, an Olympic snowboarder, and a child. And then she, because of her prowess on a snowboard, can just stand on a surfboard and do crazy airs. And they posted my must see moment presented by Treeswax, treeswax.com. The only petroleum free surf wax is she stuck around at the pool. Everybody else bailed after the event, went to Tokyo. She stuck around at the pool just to get more practice. And in a nighttime session 2 nights ago, landed a sick frontside air reverse that would have won the event. So she is a super compelling story. This is a story that we almost forecasted when wave pools
Yeah,
came
she's
online.
Rick Kane. She's the first Rick Kane.
Exactly.
Who knew Rick
Exactly.
Kane would be a Chinese teenager and a female?
Exactly. We need a sequel.
We do.
This is a story for
What
modern
if like
times
Rick
too.
Kane is her father, like in the movie, like we make it so Rick Kane fathered her, like he took a trip to Beijing or something, and
I love it.
Yeah.
Hollywood will
I
be
mean,
calling.
that's full corny action right there.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't script this. This is actually better. So the Patty Zhao story, I'm curious to see where she goes from here because clearly she's got the talent on a surfboard and a comfort level that just actually looks different than everybody else. Like the pool is her environment, where it's new for everybody else. But I would love to see how she performs in the ocean.
Yeah. Well, probably not good because judging ocean waves is probably 90% of what being a good surfer is about. Maybe that's an overreach, but it's a huge part of it. If you don't understand currents and ocean waves, you're shit out of luck.
Yeah, so she could learn that. Let's say she
No.
spends 5 years learning
Yeah,
that.
5 years
Just
minimum probably to
yeah,
learn that.
yeah, and then everything else falls into place. So,
Maybe 5 years is too. Maybe she could learn it in 2 years. If
she's a child. She could learn it quick, man.
that's true, that's a good point.
Yeah. So, in addition to the event wrap video that you were talking about, I'd like to also point people to Stab's website to read the text version because I just thought they did a phenomenal job creating context about Japan. There was like all these little factoids in the article. There's one vending machine for every 30 people in Japan, the highest concentration of vending machines.
Well, let's
It,
give a shout out to the guy who wrote. Didn't Chris Binns do this writing? Because I thought it
there,
was really well done.
they had a
I
couple of
agree with you. I
different.
just want to make sure that Chris Binns gets his due.
Well, there was a Christian Bowcut article as well, so they had a
Uh-huh.
couple of different people reporting.
Okay.
Um, they gave the origin story of karaoke. How that started, which the story they gave, who knows? Maybe it's lore,
It's
but
a good story.
the story they gave was that a bar owner, had a band scheduled one night. The band didn't show up. And so he just played a backing track for some music and invited people up to sing. And
Makes
that became
sense. I mean,
karaoke.
that must be how it started.
Right.
That's how it would start.
But so again, in contrast to other professionally produced surf events that we've watched, this I felt just gave really proper, or not, maybe not proper, not comprehensive homage to the region, but at least enough context for me as the viewer to kind of engage with it, learn some interesting stuff, feel like, man, I want to go there. They made it look fun. They represented accurately what was happening on the land or on site to represent it to the viewer to feel like we were participating in it. So
Yeah,
really enjoyed it.
I did too. They did a great job. I mean, they quoted F. Scott Fitzgerald in their piece. They spoke about how gracious the people in Japan are and how what their culture is like, the cleanliness of their culture. And when I say cleanliness, I mean not just like trash on the ground type of cleanliness, but everything about the way that they present themselves. It's got a nice aesthetic.
Yeah. Amazing people.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
congrats to Stab and also to their sponsors. I have no affiliation with Yeti. Yeti supporting this event, I think is huge. I mean, this was no small undertaking. I know Sunbum was involved, Monster Energy was involved, and so I think there was a huge expense for Stab to have all these people come to Japan, but they pulled it off and it was an incredible event. So I hope that everybody feels proud
What
about it.
does the next Stab High look like?
They got to go back to the ocean for sure.
I think they need to heighten the Zeke WWE vibe. Like they
Okay,
need to
I got the
heighten
answer.
that. Yeah.
They do need to heighten it, but they don't need to redo what they just did. They need to do what you said earlier. They need to send Sean Manners and Zeke to North Point on a swell and do a Surf 100 type event. You guys got 100 minutes out here. We're going to broadcast it and we're going to have commentators and go blow for blow.
And there's some sort of cool thing like whoever wins, the other guy has to ride his board for a year. Like there's some fun, but also noteworthy and penal bet that goes on there that adds to the drama. There needs to be a lot of money perhaps
Yeah.
involved, like something that adds some weight to create some tension and to create some pressure. Because the one thing that Zeke does really good is he's like, I don't even give a shit. Like, I got no pressure. You know what?
Exactly.
You didn't even want to invite me here. Let me show you what I got. And can he keep that if all of a sudden it's like, dude, if you win, you get X. If you don't win, you get nothing. You know, like, can he keep that kind of happy-go-lucky, laissez-faire attitude? I don't know.
You know what? Naming it the penal bet is a genius marketing move. So
Thank you.
kudos to you, Scott.
You know what? The showdown at Penal Point.
What I think is a misstep is trying to design those types of things. Like, the only reason that was fun was because it was organic. Like, that beef happened organically. They created the bet organically. The commentators were smart enough to decide to discuss it on air, which then engaged you and I. But the moment you, as the director, are like, okay, guys, it's going to be called the penal bet. And guess what we're going to do? You got to ride a surfboard for a year that you don't want to ride. It all becomes a farce.
No, you're right.
So let them figure it out. But the reality is, put them in good surf and let them surf it out. And they're both super capable.
Yeah, for sure. So that'll be fun. And we'll see what they do. I mean, Stab never seems to let us down, even when I was sort of writing it off, just again, not writing it off because it wasn't a good idea, but just writing it off because perhaps I had never experienced. What is the age-old axiom? Something like contempt prior to investigation is the first original sin.
Oof. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, one thing that I did feel throughout the event, up until maybe the final moments, was that it wasn't as innovative as I anticipated it being. Even when you see the air that Aton did, I feel the grab was the variation in there, but it was an air that I've seen a lot of times before. Again, the grab was in addition, so that made it innovative. But up until that moment, the rodeo flip was winning. And like I said, that we've seen for 15 years now. So as a viewer, I was kind of surprised that I expected leaps and bounds in innovation in this event because of who the surfers are. But the wind, I think, created a real adversarial, or whatever, created a problem, and the make rate was a lot lower than it should have been. But this is why I think they need to go back to the ocean as well, because they do need more unpredictability and bigger sections. And then I think that's where we'll start to see real innovation. So those are my closing thoughts.
Yeah. Interestingly, a wave that we sort of poo-poo all the time for holding competition, not holding competitions, but holding the finals. Lowers would be a good wave to have an aerial event. No, the left, you don't think the left's doable?
It's all too much like a wave pool. Like, they need more energy.
Yeah.
They need a closeout section. You know what I mean? Like a big overhead closeout section is what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Bone breaker section.
Oh, all right. I'm with you.
I have two more topics, unless you have to rush out of here.
Yeah, no, I've got time. Let me take a quick break and then I'll be right back.
Okay. rocketmoney.com/surf. Just this week, my wife figured out she was paying a subscription for Showtime, but then also paying for Paramount Plus, which includes Showtime for free. That's precisely what Rocket Money was designed for. A modern tool that meticulously tracks the details that we easily get distracted from. It's a finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your monthly spending, and helps you lower your bills. It gives you freedom by helping you see your subscriptions in a simple dashboard and alerts you about hidden fees or increases. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has helped save its members an average of $720 a year, with over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. Stop wasting money on things that you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/surf. Calm the clutter in your head, simplify the tedium of your financial life, and find freedom through rocketmoney.com/surf. All right. I just wanted to acknowledge Kiala Kenley posting on Instagram and attempting to set the record straight. And I will do this in the context of our earlier conversation about you loving the EOS and us talking about print. Print magazines exist as a record of things that were documented at a given time in history. And so that's part of the reason why these things are so valuable. But Kiala Kenley took to Instagram to correct the record. that she was in fact the first female surfer to get a 10 at Chopu in Tahiti in an event that ran there in the early 2000s. And what this was in response to was the recent WCT event where Tatiana Weston Webb got a 10-point ride, and all of surf media was publishing and claiming that that was the first 10 ever scored by a female in Tahiti at Chopu. And that's in fact not true. Keala Kenley got one. I think the year might have been 2001.
Yeah.
At a time where it was even, I mean, it was even less likely that the women would even surf, be allowed to surf Chopu. So, but she did it in pretty historic fashion. So she got to Instagram to just explain it. There was not any ire, or she wasn't angry. She had like a very practical kind of retelling of the story.
Yeah.
But she was like, look, I need to set the record straight. Like I can't just let it go, unsaid, let the
Yeah.
lie kind of perpetrate. And so the surf media has a responsibility and an obligation to get these things right. And she said she had to scour the internet, and all she could find was a headline from a Honolulu, like a small Honolulu paper, who acknowledged her win because she was living on Oahu at the time. So it was like local surfer, sort of a
Mhm.
story. But the fact that this truth was lost to history because, again, print has gone away, and the EOS is all that we have to really rely on to document this sort of thing, is an indicator that we need to, as surfers and fans, invest in these things who are doing the meticulous work to document and catalog history.
Wow. Well, that's a great point and a great example of why it's so important.
Well, one of Beach Grits writers, Jen C, got in on the comments section, and she goes, if only there was a World Surf League who would keep records of wins from previous events, wouldn't that be nice? And linked and hyperlinked over to the WSL's website, they only have records up until 2010. So
Yeah.
if somebody used Tom Curran as an example, they go, hey, look at Tom Curran's profile as his athlete profile on the WSL site. And they only have him surfing in one event in Bells, like in a Heritage Series heat. They do not have his world title wins, any of his contest results, any of that sort of stuff. So we are in a precarious situation where a lot of surf history is totally undocumented and
Well, the good news is you and I can just make it up.
well, yeah, unfortunately.
Oh, that's horrible. That is
So
horrible. Yeah.
it's a pretty dire
Well, look,
situation.
I mean, Matt's website, the Encyclopedia of Surfing, has a ton of valid facts and data.
Yeah.
So that's helpful on some level. But you're right. There needs to be sort of an audit done and a clearinghouse of information and a place where you can just go and get basic stats. Every sports league in the world has stats dating from day one. And it's a huge part of how they tell stories.
Totally.
Is, hey, did you know in 1946 the Stanley Cup playoffs was held in, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And so for the WSL to not have that is a massive misstep.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, and for their own good too. Like if I just want to look up information, they would want me to go to their website to look it up. You know what I mean? Like they would
Right.
get more traffic, more eyeballs, become the authority on the thing,
Yeah.
instead of me going there and realizing they're dropping the ball and then,
Yeah.
anyways,
Right.
congratulations, Keala Kenley, and good work setting the record straight. My final kind of note for today's show is just an absolute tragedy of Tamayo Perry losing his life 48 hours ago or so in a shark attack. So professional surfer, I'll just read from, I think this might have been Stab Magazine, but today on Oahu, news spread that beloved North Shore icon Tamayo Perry was killed by a shark while surfing Goat Island, a wave off the east coast of Oahu, and that he is almost synonymous with. His body was reportedly found on the island by local surfers with an arm and a leg missing. Tamayo, 49, was born and raised on the east side and made his career on the North Shore, both as a lifeguard, as a professional surfer, and later as a lifeguard.
Wow, I didn't know that both his arm and his leg were missing. They found him on the land.
That's what was reported.
Wow, that's
I
just
I saw
horrific.
I saw on nightly news, the NBC program, they reported on this as well, and they did say that the lifeguards, once they, I guess, found the body, the lifeguards did, of course, do a rescue mission, but he was already expired at that time. So,
Yeah.
really, really tragic story. Do you have any connection to Tamayo or thoughts?
I really don't. I mean, I'm just like everybody else. I know who he is. I've seen him surf over the years. And I never had any interaction with him, but it's just super sad. And apparently he was a wonderful guy and a big smile and a big heart. And one of those people who like I mentioned earlier, you don't really recall what they said to you, but they made you feel good. And apparently that's how Mr. Tamayo Perry was. And so um, it's just, I don't think I could do it any justice with my words other than my heart goes out to his wife and his immediate family and to all of his friends, which are many around the surf
Oh
world.
yeah. Well, I couldn't do it justice either, but I did have one interaction with him that I'll tell you about. But after that, I want to read to you Cliff Capono's post. A lot of people posted about who are friends with him with Tamayo, and I thought Cliff Capono's was kind of the most, I don't know, the best tribute. But before I read that, I will say I surfed with him once, and how he made me feel was great. To your
Yeah.
point,
Yeah.
I surfed. It was a not a big day at Backdoor, just like a rippable kind of day in the
Yeah.
springtime around
Yeah.
March or something. And there was a few guys out, and he paddled out, and I just wasn't even sure where to sit, but I was just sitting on the inside and off, just to let not get in the way, basically. And he recognized that I was sitting on the inside and minding my own business, and a wave came and he gave me the heads up of like, go. Like, he saw I wasn't even going to lay down on my board and make a play for it, but he didn't want it. And so he just kind of made like, hey, go, or something like that. And I was like, that really felt like validation and a pat on the back, because I certainly knew who he was.
Yeah.
And that left a good feeling with me of just like, wow, okay, I surfed with him once, and he was super cool, gave me a wave, and that was my impression of him.
That's sweet. I'm glad to
Yeah.
hear that.
So Cliff Capono posted and he said, how close were you with Tamayo? Well, the swell was really north, maybe a bit too north for sunset. Thinking all the heavy locals would be elsewhere, I opted to paddle out. The current was strong and sweeping down the point. Before I knew it, I was caught taking set after set on the head, something to be expected at Sunset Beach. What I didn't expect was to see a tiny dot of a human flying down the point from an quote undisclosed location, a goofy footer with a helmet on. He wasn't pumping, rather performing a calculated high line with precision. He dug his heels into the upper region of the wave's crest. I did some of my own math and calculated we would eventually cross if I kept my own line. I had a choice: change direction and paddle into the white water, only to get smoked to the shore after paddling for the last 15 minutes straight, or run like a rat to the shoulder. Without a hesitation, I took the cheese and thought I was in the clear. I made it out the back and figured the surfer was unhindered. Winded, I made it to the back to the lineup, and I hear roaring coming from the inside. Who the F was that in my line? I already knew. Shit. I thought to myself, that's effing Tamayo Perry. God damn it, you rat bastard, Cliff. You know better. As he sprinted towards me, I did what any 19-year-old Hilo boy would have done. I sat up on the board and braced for impact. As he got within feet from me, he looked at me in the eyes and asked if it was me. I told him it was, in fact, me, and that it was my fault. Calming down, he paddled right up, took his helmet off, showed me his scars on his head from nearly dying just the year before, and proceeded to yell at the top of his lungs, This is this shit is effing real out here. He put his helmet back on and paddled away. Over the years, I would share waves with him at other reefs, one being a slab that was lost to lava here on the Big Island. I never asked him if he remembered me being that kid, but I always had a feeling that he knew. That's how close I was to Tamayo, close to getting my ass beaten. Rest in power. Uh, Rest in power to a great teacher for so many, including myself. We truly lost a real one.
Wow, that's a great story and great little anecdote. And yeah, I mean, I'm just it's hard to kind of digest. It's just hard to take it all in. It's just a horrible thought, you
I
know?
mean, when I saw the news on my phone, I was like, it took a while to set in. You know, you just don't, he's superhuman. You don't
Yeah,
expect these things to happen to certain people. And so, tremendous tragedy.
yeah,
I guess
real
only five
bad.
people have died of shark attacks in the last decade on Oahu. So it's not really that common. It's pretty uncommon. So, um, makes it even more tragic. Anyways, thoughts and prayers to the Tamayo or to the Perry family and friends and everybody who was affected by it.
Absolutely.
Closing thoughts, Scott?
Well, look, we've had a good show. We've said a lot. There's been ups and downs, good and
Let me
bad. Um,
let me leave a closing thought real quick. Um, I mentioned last time, but Surfrider Foundation is doing beach cleanups on July 5th. So July 5th is the dirtiest beach day of the year every year in the US. That's because everybody shows up on the 4th of July, leaves their trash and bails. And it costs the local counties millions of dollars to do cleanups. So the Surfrider Foundation got involved uh, in past years. And last year they hosted 30 different beach cleanups. They removed 100,000 pounds of trash and saved the counties that money in cleanup and obviously helped protect the ocean from contamination, which is good for all human beings, not just surfers. So if you want to find a local cleanup, go to surfrider.org and you can participate in that as a volunteer, or you can donate specifically to that cause because, of course, there are hard costs involved with doing these cleanups. So just wanted to acknowledge that.
okay, well, that's important. July 5th. You know what? Don't leave a mess. How about that?
Good.
Look, we've said a lot. Um, until next time, David, adios and aloha.
All right, Mr. Bass. Driftline.co promo code SPIT to get your new and improved Yamamoto lined board shorts.
Well, heck to the yes. You know what's interesting? On the local buoy here in San Diego, the water reached 72.6 degrees yesterday. Now there's some upwelling close to shore where it's a little chillier actually, but point is that I've been wearing my drift lines. And I've got extra added warmth, extra added comfort from the 0.5 mm neoprene lined board short. And it's noticeable. And I'm a big fan and I like warmth.
Yeah. There is a perfect temperature for these or a window of perfect temperatures. And I'll tell you where I found it was in my redneck backyard inflatable pool that we set up this weekend for Austin. We filled that thing with hose water. And so the solar heating hadn't kicked in yet. It was still cold water. And he wants to get in, of course, no matter what. He doesn't care about the cold. But I was sitting there and I'm like, I'm not going to be under, like my chest isn't going to be underwater. I'm going to be sitting there and it's a little too chilly. Drift line came in handy. It was the perfect solution to where I'm like, I could spend hours in here, no problems at all. And it's comfortable. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
yeah,
Well, good.
wide usage. Driftline.co. And then of course we'll save you 15% with promo code SPIT.
All right.
All right. Very good. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah. Talk to you soon.